As business owners continue to walk through the doors with various colorful issues, we are starting to kind of curate a list of overarching principles that we seem to constantly be rolling back to during conversations with these business owners. So, started to write them down in my little notebook here. Wanted to do a quick video to share those and open the gates a little bit about how we approach various issues, cash flow issues, delegation issues, payroll, things like that. So I want to start out here with one that might seem pretty obvious to you, and you would be surprised at how many business owners don't have a plan for this going into it, and then they find themselves making money and not understanding where all that money is going. So our number one principle here for young or new business owners is understanding the flow of money. Okay. Understand the ins and outs of money within your industry, within your business. How does it tie to your business plan? Because there's a definite cap on your ability to just look at your bank balance before making a decision, right? You're going to quickly, if there's a demand for your business, you're going to quickly reach a threshold where the bank balance just doesn't give you enough information to make sound decisions. And a lot of this starts with a business plan. Again, I'm stunned at how many situations arise where a business plan doesn't exist or there was never a real understanding of how the business was actually going to be profitable. So this can be as simple as, let's say, for example, a physical therapy clinic or a mental health practitioner. They decide they want to go out on their own, start a new business, and they say, hey, I've got to treat this many people to outpace this level of expense. And that expense could be an employee to help them out, anything like that. So it starts as simple as that. How many deliverables do we need over the course of a month, a year, to outpace operating expenses that are standard for this specific industry? Okay. So want to start with the big picture like that. Okay. So let's make sure that we have a plan at least for this business to be profitable at the most simple level. And then, of course, we want to actually look at and do a little bit of a deeper dive on what are the expenses, what are the funds necessary to deliver this product, right? What is the going rate for an employee in this industry, right? So at that point, we can start looking at not only, hey, this business can be profitable, but what's it going to take financially for us to get there? And then we can start to look at a loose budget or maybe something even a little bit more granular like a cash flow statement that can really help you lock in on how money is actually moving within the business. So long story short, make sure that you've got a business plan. Make sure that you have a plan to make your business profitable. Make sure that you understand every dollar that it's going to take to achieve those deliverables. Wrestle with it, try to get it, hammer it out into a monthly budget. If it's more seasonal, we got to talk about it a little bit more, right? And get a little bit more granular with how the money is moving. Number two, and this obviously plays into number one there. This is delegation. So I believe that every business should have a plan for expansion and delegation, even if the plan is to stay relatively small, right? Because if there's demand, if there's quality in your service, and there's awareness of your service, that generates opportunity. So you're going to be trying to stay small, right? You're going to have to work harder to stay small than if you were to just have a plan in place from the get-go. How do I delegate some of this? How do I replicate myself and make room for expansion? Sometimes that is the path of least resistance, especially if you're delivering a great quality of work, especially if there's a ton of demand for what you do. you don't want to fight against that, right? You want to accept that and say, hey, how do we bring this service that we really believe in, that we take pride in, how do we bring it to more people? So even if you don't decide to capitalize on opportunities, at least you have a plan in place. Maybe you say, hey, I want to replace some of the more difficult clients. The only way that you can do that is if you have a plan in place to expand. And that can only be done if you're delegating and relinquishing some control. Now, I want to, at this point, emphasize the significance of adequate pricing. Okay, so we look back at the business plan. We know every dollar that it's going to take to deliver this product. Are we pricing adequately, right? To cover those dollars and still have a margin to pay ourselves for all the hard work we're putting in, right? So delegation can only be done with a solid business plan, with demand, with awareness, and with adequate pricing. So in short, the most successful of successful business owners have a knack for establishing good systems and processes that set up employees for success, and they're effectively able to replicate themselves, replicate their quality of work, and grow and naturally adapt to the demand for their service. And then that leads into number 3, and that's detachment. Okay, there's got to be a level of trust between owner and employee, or owner and subcontractor. If you're working with somebody and you aren't able to allow them space to do things, to learn, to fail, then you're fighting against the opportunity in your business, because failure is one of the greatest generators of opportunity, right? So let your people grow. Of course, we want systems and processes in place, okay? We got to have that, because that's really the best thing that you can do to set your employees up for success. But beyond that, you got to give them space to grow. You got to give them space to fail. And it's okay if there's a little bit of a dip in quality between your work and their work, because you got to be able to identify that and say, hey, what can I do as a leader here to set them up for success, short of me actually going and doing it for them, right? So number 3, detachment. After number 2, delegation feeds right into detachment. Delegation only works if you're willing to detach and if you're willing to relinquish control over all the functions within your business. Now, to recap a little bit here, cash flow number 1, understand the business plan. What's the funding needed for these deliverables? At that point, once we are profitable, since we understand the cash flow, since we understand the business plan, we've already built in a process of delegation based on adequate pricing that we pulled from our business plan, right? Now the next step is to start to detach. And a lot of folks feel like, hey, once I detach, what am I going to do? I can promise you, I would almost guarantee you a refund if you're not still busy after you detach. There are still going to be tons of systems and processes that you're going to want to implement after you detach to continue scaling your business. So don't be afraid to detach. Don't be afraid to allow those little lapses in quality to show up so that you can fix them. That's what you're going to be doing after you detach. The 4th habit here is getting personal spend under control. Now, this may seem like something that's only applicable to smaller businesses, sole proprietors, but it's really not. If you look from the smallest of the small business to all the way up to publicly traded companies, the draining of cash from the C-level and from the business owner is a massive threat to cash reserves and a massive threat to the scalability of business, right? So we want to get in the habit of viewing money as a resource and not so much of a good, right? So money is a resource. Cash balances are a resource for the expansion of your business. Now, of course, that includes more money for you as the owner, right? It's going to naturally do that. But a healthy bank balance shouldn't just be viewed as a big cake, right? It's a resource. And so if you're constantly draining that resource and then saying, hey, well, now we're going to go get more money, you're not really going the natural route here with expansion, okay? You want to have a well-capitalized business, a well-funded business that can help you capitalize on opportunities that show up. And you want to be able to especially capitalize on those opportunities that you were hoping for 5 years ago, right? So as your business grows, you're going to have dream opportunities that come about. And if you've already cashed in on your reserves, you might not be able to pursue those, right? A lot of big contracts, government contracts, things like that, require an upfront investment, and it might take you a little while to get paid. You want to be able to capitalize on things like that too. So, in summary, understand cash flow, develop a healthy business plan, understand it like the back of your hand. Where is every dollar going? What do we need to deliver on this to make it profitable? And then as a result of that, you're going to be able to adequately price, and you're going to have the margins to delegate the work, right? Then you're going to be able to detach from it and further implement systems and processes kind of from the top down that allow you to grow. It's really difficult to see the bottlenecks when you're in the day-to-day, but once you detach from it, it's much easier to see those bottlenecks and much easier to address them. And then to summarize it all, be careful with the money that you're pulling out of the business, right? It's kind of taboo, not something I can really talk about when somebody comes into the office, but a little bit out of scope for us, right? But it's one of the biggest drivers of failure for small businesses. Tons of small businesses with plenty of demand are failing because cash flow isn't managed properly. Ownership drains the cash reserves. It happens in the McDonald's size places, the Walmarts. It happens there, but it also happens to the smallest of the small who have great opportunities and great demand, but can't keep their hands out of the money. So I hope this is helpful, even if you're not a business owner, maybe to start viewing your personal finances as a business, viewing money as a resource, having a plan. Again, this is Movement CPA, 4 habits of successful business owners. Hope everybody has a great day.